Welcome to this session, part of the North America Social Entrepreneurship Education Forum. My name is James Stauch, joining you today from Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. I'm a proud member of Catalyst 2030 and the Executive Director of the Institute for Community Prosperity at Mount Royal University in Western Canada. I'm also a visiting fellow at the School Centre at the University of Oxford. I'm going to talk a bit about the work we do at the Institute in a bit. But first of all, the purpose of the North American Social Entrepreneurship Educators Forum, the first of its kind, this is the first gathering of its kind, is to bring together many types of learning practitioners, organizations, networks involved in social entrepreneurship or social innovation education. So this forum is meant to be a stimulating place to form relationships, foster teaching and research collaborations, and promote cross-organizational activities. It's a venue for lively discussion and the sharing of ideas, experiences, and promising practices. As such, we've allocated a little bit of time near the end of this session for small group discussions in a virtual breakout room setting. So I want to thank Cindy Vangelage and Debbie Brock for designing this session and recruiting this amazing panel of speakers, each of whom are playing pivotal roles in shaping and advancing social innovation education in North America. I will introduce each in turn, and then we'll dive right into the presentations. So Rebecca Klaassen, in her role as the Network Engagement Manager of Ashoka Canada, Rebecca works with the post-secondary sector and Changemaker Campus Network to grow and deepen the impact of Changemaker education. Rebecca's career has been dedicated to building the capacity of young people as changemakers in their communities and in the world. She previously managed Civic Action's Emerging Leaders Network and the Toronto RISE program of the organization Apathy is Boring. Rebecca is passionate about civic engagement, responsible global citizenship, and social impact. And I can personally vouch that my institution, MRU, is honored to be an Ashoka recognized Changemaker campus. Dr. Sandra Lapointe is a professor of philosophy at McMaster University. She's a Commonwealth alumna, a fellow of the Humboldt Foundation, and an award-winning scholar. She is past president of the Canadian Philosophical Association and a past member of the board of directors of the Federation for the Humanities and Social Sciences. Her current research agenda looks at social innovation and higher education policy, knowledge mobilization, and skills development for inclusive innovation and impact. Sandra is the director of The Collaborative, or La Collaborative, a pan-Canadian partnership funded by SHIRC, which is a long acronym. It's a major federal funder of the social sciences and humanities, MITAX, and the Future Skills Center. She convenes the Canadian Forum for Social Innovation and leads the McMaster Social Innovation Ideas and Action Lab. Not in her bio, but it should be, is the descriptor force of nature. Sandra is an incredible connector and network weaver. Ernie Cadotte. Dr. Ernie Cadotte is a professor emeritus of innovative learning at the University of Tennessee. For more than 30 years, he's been developing business flight simulators for college students and entrepreneurs. He's the developer of the Marketplace family of simulations. More than a million students and business professionals have participated in one of his simulations as part of their business education. Cadotte's research interests include learning processes, assessment, psychological measurement, customer satisfaction, and entrepreneurial decision-making. Next, we'll hear from María Ballesteros-Sola. Dr. Ballesteros-Sola is an assistant professor of management at the Martin V. Smith School of Business and Economics at California State University, Channel Islands in Camarillo. Her research interests include hybrid organizations, social enterprises, social entrepreneurship, and certified B Corps. She's also the chair of the social impact track for the North American Case Research Association, or NACRA, and the co-editor of the SAGE Social Impact Case Collection. Her cases have won several awards at both NACRA and USASBE annual conferences. Eundeok Kim. Dr. Kim is a professor in the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship at Florida State University. Her teaching and research interests are in new product development and management, trend analysis and forecasting, sustainability and social responsibility, and innovation and technology. She was awarded the Social Entrepreneurship SIG Award for Excellence in Social Entrepreneurship Teaching at the 2023 Annual Conference of the United States Association for Small Business and Entrepreneurship, which is the largest entrepreneurship association in the world. I did not know that. So we're going to start with Rebecca sharing about Ashoka Canada and engaging young people in change making. So Rebecca, over to you.
Thanks, James. Good morning, everybody. So my name's Rebecca Klaassen. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm based in Vancouver, British Columbia, on the traditional and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, which includes the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. So I work for Ashoka Canada, which is part of the global Ashoka network, and I manage our Changemaker education programming here in Canada. So here today to talk to you about how we're using Changemaker education to transform the post-secondary sector in Canada for the better, and how you might be able to get engaged in this work and in our model. So Ashoka's vision is a world where everyone can be a changemaker. And you might be familiar already with the Ashoka Fellowship, which is a network of the world's leading social entrepreneurs. So that's one way that we fulfill this vision. But another way that we bring our vision to life by reaching thousands of young people is through Changemaker education. So we partner with universities and colleges across Canada that are transforming their institutional culture and operations to deeply systemically embed changemaking and social innovation. So this means that students, regardless of their program of study, will have opportunities to develop as changemakers. So through curriculum, co-curricular activities, research, community engagement, students can learn and practice change-making skills like empathy, creativity, problem solving, collaboration. So really transferable skills that will also support them in their careers and enable them to go out and make social impact, make positive social change on their campus, in their communities, and as they go out into their careers. So campuses that have really excelled at doing this can apply for the Changemaker Campus designation. So they become a part of a network of campuses globally that are leading best practices in Changemaker education. So here in Canada, we have 7 campuses that have achieved the Changemaker Campus designation. You'll see their logos up on the screen there, and 5 of which recently renewed their designation. So reaffirmed their commitment to Changemaker education, of which, as James mentioned, Mount Royal University is one of our campuses. So these campuses are part of a global network, which is stewarded by my lovely colleagues at Ashoka U and Ashoka Global. And then our national network here, we have a really thriving national community here in Canada. So we recognize that not every campus might be ready for designation, but still wants to get engaged in this work. So there's a number of different entry points into Changemaker education, depending where your campus is at, what your needs and interests are. So firstly, sort of most simple way to get engaged is to check out our Knowledge Hub of free resources. I think there'll be a link in the chat, or I can drop it in there after. Lots of helpful stuff in there from Ashoka and from our Changemaker campuses. And there's 2 in particular that I wanted to highlight today. So firstly, Becoming a Changemaker Institution. This is an excellent guidebook on the steps to embedding changemaking and social innovation on your campus. And there's some great examples from our Changemaker campuses in there and from over 15 years of doing this work at the time of publication. And the second is a new toolkit that was recently released by Georgian College, one of our Changemaker campuses here in Canada, called Manifesting as a Changemaker. Ashoka Canada partnered with them on a 3-year research project to look at what educators need to develop and assess changemaking in their students. So it has some awesome tools, rubrics, and activities for educators from K to 12 to post-secondary, and even people who are working on education with young people in community settings. So definitely recommend checking that one out. And again, I can drop a link in the chat afterwards. Just going back one slide, Debbie, if you don't mind. The Changemaker Education Research Forum is an awesome opportunity for folks to get engaged in this work. So this is a forum that brings together academics, practitioners, students, and researchers of Changemaker education around the world. Whether you're currently working in maker education or you're just interested in it, we very much welcome you to attend or to apply to present. It's held about every 1.5 years. Most recently, this past February, we held it virtually. But as you can see in this photo here, we have held it in person. This was in Halifax in 2022. So if you're interested in being informed about SURF, we haven't scheduled the next one. But if you want to know when that is and maybe apply to present, my email will be up on the slides later, and you're more than welcome to reach out to me about that. So the last engagement opportunity I'm going to highlight today is a bit of a more hands-on way for campuses who want to really deeply engage in changemaker education or just deepen their existing impact if you're already doing this work. So we have a new offering. Ashoka Canada and Royal Roads recently partnered on a micro-credential course for post-secondary leaders. So we piloted this course last year with the University of the Fraser Valley. A group of leaders from across the campus came together through the course to learn more about change-making and social innovation in post-secondary contexts, to map out the institutional strengths and opportunities for change-making and social innovation, and to develop a strategic action plan that has buy-in from very senior leaders for how they're going to carry out this work over the next 4 years. So this pilot was very successful. The course acted as the first step of the designation process to become a changemaker campus, which is completing an ecosystem scan of your campus and developing an action plan. So University of the Fraser Valley has really evolved their changemaking, is moving forward in this process, feeling better equipped and better aligned, and having a really strong change team. So we're now adapting the pilot into the next iteration and considering a cohort model of having multiple campuses participate at the same time. So if you are interested in exploring what this could look like on your campus, please do reach out to me. My email's up on here. And if you're interested in any of the other pieces I talked about today, I would love to chat with you and welcome the connection. Thanks, folks.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. And I forgot to mention, and some of you have taken the lead in doing it in the chat. Please, if you haven't already done so, introduce yourself in the chat. If you're participating online, tell us a little bit about where you're coming from and what your current association or affiliation is that you're interested in talking about. So I guess I'm up next. I should provide just a very short introduction to who I am. Quick disclaimer, if you Google my TEDx talk, you will notice that I take a bit of a dim view of sort of universities' general ability to embrace social innovation, that are reasons both ancient and contemporary. And so part of the past decade for me has been to approach academia itself with a bit of an anthropological lens. I didn't come to the university through a scholarly path. I worked in the nonprofit world, in community development, and as a grant maker in the foundation world. And starting this fall, I'll be spending most of the coming 2 years working in a commercial or private sector context, helping develop systems-led approaches in innovation processes. But my critique really is a little more structural. It's about the broader systems that academia inhabits, yet within this, there are still islands of innovation like those highlighted today. I would like to think of our institute, which is the Institute for Community Prosperity, as one such small island. So MRU is an undergraduate liberal arts university, very much like a US liberal arts college in orientation and philosophy, but publicly funded. So we're much more about teaching than research, and a good deal of interdisciplinary latitude. So our programming at the Institute's roughly 50% focused on undergrad learning and 50% on community-focused learning, and some of that is kind of hybridized between the two audiences. Much of our programming is also community co-led, meaning a community partner organization will co-design and or co-deliver the learning. And so we've been able to create and deliver a lot of non-credit, co-curricular, and some credit-based programs for students and practitioners in social innovation, in systems leadership, and in using economic enterprise and finance tools for social change. So students at MRU can enroll in up to 9 social innovation credit courses in completing either a minor in social innovation, which is available to any student on campus, or a concentration available only to general management students. That's kind of like the BBA for good. Only one of those social innovation courses ties expressly to entrepreneurship. Most of the courses are tied either strongly or tangentially to systems thinking, tools for listening, research, mapping, ultimately deepening understanding of social challenges and the context they're embedded in. Of course, context is everything. So one of the most interesting courses is about civic innovation, with students learning from planners, activists, artists, architects, developers, and so on. And one of the assignments is designing a Jane's Walk in honor of the legendary Jane Jacobs. So for students interested in social entrepreneurship specifically, we recommend that they do a double minor in entrepreneurship and social innovation. Social innovation students or other students involved in change-making activities, for example, working on food security or raising awareness of the SDGs, have access to the Trico Changemakers Studio. That's a 4,000 square foot working and multifunctional meeting and workshop space. Change slide. So for 8 years, going on 9, students at MRU have participated in a systems mapping competition hosted globally by the School Center at the University of Oxford. And then for the past 6 of those years, we've managed and hosted the countrywide regional competition called Map the System Canada. So this competition is a bit unique in that it doesn't reward the solution idea, but rather it rewards the students' analysis of the problem. And we work with the founder of this competition, Daniela Papi-Thornton, to create an open access student guide to mapping the system. That was created back in 2018. So if you change slides, our involvement in that competition helped inspire another program at the Institute, which is kind of a leadership program by stealth. It's called the Catamount Fellowship for Emerging Changemakers. Uses many systems understanding techniques, but it really is community co-led. So the challenges are not identified by the students, but by local community partners. And then students are matched with those partners and work for an 8-month academic year period. Change slides. We also tried an experiment this past spring. We realized that students who participate in something like Map the System, they develop this passion for systems thinking, and often for the issue they're diving into, like they fall in love with the problem, to use Karl Popper's phrase. But they struggle to build networks. They don't quite know whether this skill will actually be fruitful for a career. Like, can you get a job with this skill set of systems thinking? So the BAM Systems Summit brought practitioners working in all sectors from many different industries, communities, walks of life, who actually use it in their jobs in conversation with students from around North America. So we're going to be doing that again this coming May. Change slide. And at the same time that we created this guide to mapping a system, the authors of that, Daniela, Anna Johnson, and myself, we followed that up by working on a book. And it started its life as a systems mapping guide for practitioners, but it's actually morphed into what we're calling a pre-innovation guide to understanding and reframing problems and how to contribute to shifting systems. It riffs on the Einstein quote, like if you had an hour to solve a difficult problem, spend the first 55 minutes understanding the problem, but we live in a culture that's all about that last 5 minutes, the solving it, right? That's the pitch competitions, that's the planning, the design, the action phase. So we're really trying to reset the clock in a way and get students and practitioners to really focus on those metaphorical first 55 minutes. Change slides. We do a lot of sense making as well. Trend analysis, futures analysis, horizon scanning. Change slides. So please reach out to me either through my MRU coordinates or through my consultancy, which is now 6,000 kilometers to the east, 3 time zones, starting in October. So that's a good segue to our next speaker, Sandra Lapointe, who's attempting to break down the massive practitioner-academic divide, as well as many divides between disciplines. And it's really inspiring work that Sandra's doing. So over to you, Sandra.
Thanks, James. Yes. So if you switch the slide, Debbie. Yeah. So I am the director of the collaborative. And the collaborative really is an attempt to rethink the way in which we mobilize knowledge and talent, specifically in the social science and humanities, because if we're going to tackle any of the big societal challenges that we're facing, we need that knowledge, we need that talent. But it's also, of course, these issues require a lot of interdisciplinary, cross-sectoral collaborations. And most of what we're trying to do is to create the conditions for that. So the collaborative itself is the place in our projects where we think about new ways, develop new programs, and then implement them and scale them. So over the course of the years, we've created a few different kinds of platforms where I'm not really there yet. We can go back to the first slide. So there's the inquiry learning platform, which is trying to bring expertise to support inquiry learning in classrooms, in K-12 classroom, but at scale. We developed a new knowledge brokering, expertise brokering process. Innovation for Social Impact is the program that I specifically wanted to talk to you about today, because we can't talk about all the things. And I thought there were maybe some ideas that were interesting there. And more recently, we partnered with the Canadian Science Policy Centre to create a Canadian Forum for Social Innovation, which is a place of deliberation, consultation around questions that have to do with impact innovation across all zones of impact. And it's been immensely interesting over the last couple of years to see this grow and flourish. I'll put the website in this chat later. We have multiple partners. Here you see a selection of them, really focus more on the Canadian Forum for Social Innovation. We also work with over a dozen different universities to deploy our programs. We work with United Ways across communities in Canada. We work with organizations that support nonprofits, and the idea really is to help them build capacity for innovation in the social sector, and especially in the case of innovation for social impact, which is a full instructional package with all the resources for an instructor around an experiential learning course. The idea with social impact is to strike two birds with one stone. I don't think it's very politically correct to strike birds with stone, but you get my idea. To build capacity for innovation in current nonprofit manager, the experiential learning partners, and with future nonprofit managers, the students in the classroom. So what I think is interesting about our approach is that we put in question the standard model for experiential learning. And what we did was to create a co-learning space where students and nonprofit managers build capacity for social innovation, basic principles of social innovation. But because the problem is not teaching social innovation, the problem is to create that classroom co-learning environment. And that's what the collaborative does. So I've laid out a little bit of the process. So the collaborative works with, on the one hand, universities, and on the other hand, with community hubs, organizations that cater to the needs of multiple nonprofit at the same time. Community Foundation, our model is revolves really around the United Way network in Canada. We go to universities, ask them if they're interested in implementing an experiential learning opportunity for their social science humanities students, which they all are. And on the one hand, the university's responsibility on that model is to put the course on the books and select an instructor. And once these conditions are set, or once we have an agreement, then we go to the local United Way and ask them if they're interested in making this course available to their nonprofit networks, to their fundies, to their agencies. And so that co-learning environment is created through that process. Once we've made the connection, which is what the collaborative does, then everything happens in the classroom. We spent a lot of time thinking about the constraints around experiential learning in the social sector. I actually wrote a report on that. experiential learning or work integrated learning in the social sector is a different beast than what it is in engineering. And we wanted to understand how that works. So the collaborative is there before, it's there during to support instructors, to support nonprofits, to support the community hubs through which these nonprofits are recruited, and also after, because we need to be learning and making sure that these things are working well. So that's basically our model. On the next slide, you have the course description, or if you want the lesson plan for the course. It revolves around 12 units. All these resources, so that includes templates of syllabus, activities in the classroom, the slides for the instructor, everything comes with the package, which is available at absolutely no cost. What the collaborative does is not only to make that package available, but also to volunteers to create the relationship. So if you are interested in learning more about this, then we'd be really happy to have a discussion and also learn from you.
Thanks so much, Sandra. Over to Ernie to talk about market simulations and conscious capitalism.
Yes, thank you very much. I find the conversation here to be very enlightening and inspiring. I take a different perspective. I'm looking at future business leaders, and what we're trying to do is train business students in the management of the societal impact of the firms that they're going to be joining. For many of them, they have only learned how to excel at developing marketing plans, managing supply chains, doing accounting and finance without any consideration of societal impact. And for decades, I've been part of the problem by emphasizing the sole purpose of a business is to create wealth, without realizing the impact it's having as people pursue that goal relentlessly. And what we're trying to do is help students realize they can both do well and do good. Now, for a business student to take advantage of that, they have to understand what it means to manage societal impact. And so I've created this video for you that gives you an introduction. So Debbie, if you'll play that.
What is the main purpose of a business? Generations of entrepreneurs, economists, and educators have believed that the sole purpose of business is shareholder wealth. Businesses driven by profit have created job opportunities, technological advancements, and improved standards of living. Yet, the pursuit of profit has sometimes caused harm to the environment, customers, employees, and society. Is it time to make a change? New business philosophies such as triple bottom line, principles of responsible management education, sustainable development goals, environmental social governance, socially responsible investment, and conscious capitalism call for businesses to not only focus on shareholders, but to recognize the needs of employees, customers, suppliers, communities, and society. Many accrediting bodies now require schools to develop leaders who can manage the impact of business on the world. As educators, we have the opportunity to shape the mindset of future business leaders. We can become the catalyst of this change. How can your school facilitate this shift in business philosophy? The Conscious Capitalism Business Simulation by Marketplace helps business schools develop business leaders who can manage both profit and business's societal impact. More than 60,000 students and executives from educational institutions around the world have already benefited from the Conscious Capitalism Simulation as part of their business education. How does it work? Students work as an executive team, running their own business in an online game environment. Over the course of several business quarters, they experiment with business decisions and compete against other companies. Students analyze the market opportunity and devise a business strategy. They design products to satisfy the customer's needs and develop advertising campaigns to persuade potential customers to buy. Students set up sales outlets around the world and manage production to fulfill customer demand. They learn to strike the balance between doing well through profit maximization and doing good through socially conscious management. For example, their company's HR manager is concerned about the monotonous nature of production work lowering employee satisfaction and productivity. She wants workers to be cross-trained and have more variety in their job. Reports start coming in about a product defect that could harm customers and hurt the company reputation. The workers worry about the health effects of harmful chemicals and airborne particles they inhale in their workplace. The local community is unhappy with the factory's impact on the environment. Students must decide how to address these issues while handling the usual challenges of running a business. Should they worry about environmental concerns? Should they invest more in workers? Or the quality of products to make customers happier? Should they spend money to improve supplier relationships, the health of their employees, or make a difference in the community? These are tough choices to make, since there is not enough money to do all that is needed. Students discover what drives sales, profits, customer perception, employee morale, company reputation, and more. They learn that taking care of all stakeholders can increase the bottom line. As students make realistic business decisions and immediately see the results of their actions, they internalize key business concepts and the principles of socially responsible leadership through practice. Socially responsible leaders can create a better future. The conscious capitalism simulation can help you develop the minds that will lead this change.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I tried to encapsulate that entire learning experience. The idea is to help the students touch and feel what it means to manage an organization, to do good as well as do well. And we try to make it very personal about how students learn about issues from industry news. Their own employees that ask, if I get pregnant, do I have to worry? And they have a lot of other reports. And so there are various ways they learn about these issues. Now, if you take SDGs, if you've ever really read all those definitions, they deal largely with society, and it's tough for an undergraduate to fully understand what they mean. So what we try to do, next slide, is make this much more personal. We try to take it down to a very practical, personal, managerial level where they are running a company, trying to do it well from a business point of view, but also from the societal impact. And our goals are to engage, challenge, inspire, and transform students so they learn all what it means to manage the societal impact of the companies that they will manage in the future. So thank you for this opportunity, and I will pass the baton to Maria, who will talk about the case method. Maria?
Thanks, Ernie, and thanks, of course, Cindy and Debbie, for creating this forum where we can exchange ideas and some of our challenges. So, next. What I brought today is just a brief introduction to the case method. And I like to think of this as a tip of the iceberg presentation. I run a lot of workshops on case writing, case teaching. So bear with me, it's going to be less than 6 minutes. The first, wait, Debbie, go back to the next one. My first message is that case method for me is just one of the tools within what I call the toolkit, right? Social entrepreneurship education toolkit. We have fantastic presentations before of some of the other elements that you can incorporate in that toolkit, simulations, of course, experiential learning. But what I'm going to be focusing is just one of them. And notice that in my toolkit sort of framework, I put our community partners at the center of every effort I do with my students. Next, so when I zoom in into what case method mean, I think we hopefully, most of you have experienced case method as teachers, and you incorporate cases in your classes, but I want to expand your perspective of what the case method can do for you and your students by bringing the idea of case writing as an author yourself, or case writing with the students. It's a very powerful pedagogical tool to help the students write cases, and I will speak briefly later. And then the fourth element in this framework of engagement with the case method is of course, writing and conduct research in what I call the scholarship of teaching and learning. That is also a growing research stream that I'm happy to discuss in more detail if someone is interested. So next. For those of you that have not experienced the case method, I want to say from the beginning, there are two very distinctive elements. You have the case study, the story that is going to be read by the students. And I put in a call for action in front of this audience, because as you probably know, most of the cases that we know focus on a protagonist that is facing a dilemma. I tend to write only field-based cases, which mean that I interview those managers, those founders, those entrepreneurs, and I would love to see more cases coming out that deal with a stakeholder perspective, where you have different voices, not just the voice of that single protagonist, and also that help the students to learn about system thinking versus just the traditional problem analysis, industry analysis, and the decision just made by one protagonist within one organization. And then you have on the right side the second element. I personally am a nerd when it comes to the teaching note on the instructor manual, because for me, that's where the rubber meets the road, and that's what makes a wonderful story become a very pedagogical, impactful pedagogical tool. And those are the traditional elements of an instructor manual. And I want to bring your attention to what I call the theoretical linkages. And you'll see in the next slide why. What we do with cases, next, Debbie, you are discussing a specific situation in class. You went a little bit too fast on the animation, but what we want the students to learn is different theoretical linkage of concept in that specific context. Or maybe the students are going to learn with the help of the instructor that there is not a specific theory or conceptual framework that help to understand that situation. But the goal is that after they have had that discussion in class, eventually they can apply next. They can apply that in the workforce or in the field. So you go for concrete to abstract to then apply what you have learned in those discussions in multiple contexts. I personally also in my classes do a little bit of scaffolding with the cases. So when you use cases along a semester or along a course, it's giving you an opportunity to always refer back to the cases. And because of the story telling impact and effect, the students are able to easily recall concept because they are attached to specific cases. Next. As I mentioned this, and I hope we can share some slides I presented many years ago in USASBE to help you understand how powerful writing cases with the students can be. I call it the virtuous circle because I had speakers coming to my class, students developing interest in writing about that specific social enterprise, and eventually after writing those cases, some of my students were invited to join and work for those organizations. So it was a powerful, very powerful engagement. And not to mention, you go from a white paper at the beginning of the semester to actually have a published in a peer-reviewed journal cases. There is a note there. If you are a member of the Case Center, I'm doing a very quick intro to this specific project on September the 19th. Next one. You might wonder, where do we find social impact, social innovation related cases? It took me many years to understand the ecosystem of the case method publishing. But of course, you have academic journals that can be generalists that include some of the cases that we we might be interested in adopting in our class or discipline focus. And there are case collections that also include a lot of social impact cases. And then those are paid. So I also make an effort here to share with you what I call the generalist free and open source cases. And then we have fantastic efforts by different universities in which you can find free open source cases, University of San Diego and University of Waterloo. Next. And I wrap it up here. This is just a call for engagement. I'm part of the North America Case Research Association. We have our session in October. Everyone is welcome to join us. And I hope we get some questions later. Let me pass the baton to Dr. Kim. I know we are a little bit behind time, but I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very honored and thrilled to be here today. I'm going to talk about a problem-based service learning project with 10,000 villages, a fair trade nonprofit social enterprise. I implemented this project in my graduate course, Product Innovation and Management. The details of the project were published as a journal article. I'll put the link to the article in the chat soon. Now I want to tell you about my project focusing on the 5 steps I used to implement PBSL. I put a lot of words on my slide so you can have the information after my presentation. The first step was setting goals and learning outcomes of the project and selecting a community partner. The goal of the project was to create innovative, sustainable product for 10,000 villages. I'm going to use TTV for 10,000 villages. The intended learning outcomes were to analyze the enterprise's business model and sustainability practices, develop an innovative collection of sustainable products, justify the contribution of the new product to the triple bottom line of the business, just to mention a few. And to do this, I selected a local TTV franchise because I was aware of their need for university resources and expertise. In case anyone does not know TTV, is one of the oldest and largest fair trade organization in the world, and it markets handcrafted products created by over 120 disadvantaged artisan groups from over 35 developing countries, mostly consisting of women. The second step was selecting a real-world problem. So I had the store manager of TTV come to class at the beginning of the semester to introduce the project and their business. For the project, students had to develop innovative, sustainable products that strategically fit into TTV's unique business practices, describe the strategic materials, design and manufacturing processes, justify why the new products are innovative, and explain its contribution to the business. The store manager showed several touching videos of, back to previous slide. Yeah. The store manager showed several touching videos of artisan stories that illustrated what TTV's collaboration meant to them in terms of enhancing gender equality by empowering women, bettering their children's education by improving their household income, developing a local economy, and preserving their cultural identity and tradition. This appeal was extremely powerful in evoking students' interest in learning. That confirmed how effective storytelling can be. Next slide. So the next step was facilitating problem solving with the students. I facilitated student learning by guiding student-directed research, applying particular knowledge of the new product development process to TTV, and facilitated the group learning process. Next slide. The fourth step was student reflections. I developed 10 prompts, as you can see on the slide, including what were the most satisfying or challenging parts of your work, what learning occurred for you, and how did this project address the need of TTV. You can see student reflections in the article. Yes, yeah. So, and then the last step was student presentations of a project and feedback. As you can see on the slide, the student presented various products employing weaving, kneading, and printing techniques like yoga outfit or best product. Next slide. And men's and women's accessories and pet products. Next. And then next. Many groups use the storytelling technique. The store manager and a board member critique the project as guest judges, and top 3 projects were awarded. And then this was really great. Some of the best projects were sent to the headquarters of TTB, and some were reflected in their new product. As you can imagine, this was very rewarding for students. Next slide. So, next slide, sorry. This slide shows the model of PBSL student outcomes I proposed. I wanted to compare the outcomes of the project with the social enterprise versus those with the commercial enterprise. The right side is the TTB project, and the left shows a commercial enterprise forecasting firm from my trend analysis and forecasting class. As you can see, I found that the overlapped area of PBSL with the social enterprise includes the components of the commercial model and much more, including social global issue awareness, multicultural sensitivity, empathy, new world view, gratefulness, among many others. This concludes my presentation about my project, but now I want to quickly tell you about USASBE. Next slide. USASBE's mission is to advance entrepreneurship education through bold teaching, scholarship, and practice. Its members are educators, researchers, and ecosystem builders, and various special interest groups facilitate collaboration and knowledge exchange among members with similar interests. The Social Entrepreneurship SIG I'm chairing for this year is the largest and provides the Social Entrepreneurship Certificate Program, SIG Awards, and quarterly webinars and all member meetings among its many activities. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Eundeok. And thank you to all of you for providing such a rich tapestry of different ways that we approach social entrepreneurship education. We're a little over in each of the presentations, so we're actually going to dispense with the general Q&A and go right into breakout rooms, because we'd like to create a little bit of space for all of you participants to have a chance to chat with each other. I'm also going to take a few liberties with what we're going to talk about in the breakout rooms. Essentially, there's 2 purposes that are tied, and one is, what are the questions? What are some of the questions that are surfacing for you after hearing the presentations today? And that ties into question 2 here. Your suggestions for a North American academic hub. What kinds of opportunities, topics, media, and other venues would you recommend or be interested in seeing as part of a North American educators social entrepreneurship educators hub? Debbie, I'm going to call on you to either contradict me or to build on what I've just said in what you'd like out of the breakout rooms.
We said to end at the top of the hour. Normally we do these sessions at 75 minutes, but with academic hubs, we tend to make them a little bit shorter, so we apologize for that. But we do want to see, if you are interested in engaging more, that there are these resources that are available to you to join the network, to join, whether it's with, you don't have to join Catalyst to be a part of this, but you can join and be involved with the work that we're doing. So in the chat, you're going to see lots of little messages come up pretty quickly. One is, I want to share the Social Change Innovators online knowledge portal that was started for educators by educators. It now includes social entrepreneurs. James actually curated the systems change module. So you're welcome to go to the SCI platform and look at some of the teaching modules that we've curated, which includes videos, articles, etc. We have a global learning series that's coming out in the fall. The first one starts on the 2nd of September. Similar, so we've got working with impact investing, we're working with social entrepreneurship education and some research trends as well. So happy to have you join us for those upcoming sessions and the QR code, but we'll also put that in the chat. And the last one is the poll. So we're going to launch this poll pretty quickly. We will share all the slides from today. We'd like to showcase how people felt about the session. I know we should ask the question, how long or too short was it? It was definitely short. So thank you all. And if you can answer some of those quick poll questions. But as you see all the things coming in the chat, we'd love to thank all our speakers. So James, I'll send it back to you to thank everyone.
Thank you, Debbie, and thank you, Cindy, again for organizing this event and putting this together in such short order. And I want to thank all of our speakers, Doctors Kim, Dr. Cadotte, Dr. Ballesteros-Sola, Rebecca Klaassen, Dr. Lapointe. Thank you all for contributing so richly to this discussion. And thank you for taking time out of your summer schedule to join us in an online forum, wherever you're joining us from. So thank you, be well, and until next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Apologies for the quickness at the end. If you want to learn more, we'll share in the chat how you can join and get more connected with other academics in the region. In true Catalyst fashion, feel free to unmute and say goodbye to everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Good day. Bye-bye.